She was humiliated in front of New York's elite when her shawl was ripped away, revealing a stunning gown and a broken heart. Meet Maya Collins, a woman torn between the man who shattered her and the friend who loved her in silence. Caught in a whirlwind of betrayal, rumors, and an unexpected proposal, Maya must choose between forgiveness and freedom. But when her past returns with a secret and a plea, everything changes. Will love be her redemption or her ruin? Where are you watching from? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that will break your heart and put it back together. The lights of Manhattan shimmered like 1,000 secrets across the rooftop skyline, casting golden glows on the glass walls of the Delacroix Hotel, where laughter and jazz swirled like perfume in the air. Inside the rooftop ballroom, elite guests glided through clusters of champagne flutes and silk gowns, their conversations a smooth hum of power and privilege. But near the edge of the glittering room stood a woman who didn't quite belong. Maya Collins, wrapped in a worn, oversized shawl that clashed painfully with the elegance around her, kept her posture tight and eyes low. Her figure, graceful yet guarded, stood out not for its beauty, though she had plenty, but for its strange silence. Guests whispered behind painted lips, their curious glances darting toward her like fireflies circling a flame. Some chuckled, others simply stared. Maya didn't care. Or at least, she told herself she didn't. Her fingers clutched the shawl like armor, the fabric thin but oddly heavy with the weight of memory. She didn't want to be here. Not at a rooftop cocktail party hosted by Reynolds Group, not among champagne towers and tailored suits. She was here for work, to represent Summit Realty as their property manager liaison. Smile, shake hands, collect business cards. That's it. No emotions, no memories, no past. But fate doesn't keep appointments. It crashes them. Across the room, Damian Reynolds watched her. At 42, the CEO of Reynolds Group was as much a symbol of success as the skyscraper that bore his name. His charm was effortless, the kind that walked into a room long before he did. But tonight, something had shifted. His gaze fixed not on the mayor or the investor from Dubai, but on the woman wrapped in a shapeless shawl, who looked like she might disappear if anyone looked too hard. And then he moved. Maya saw him out of the corner of her eye, and panic flared in her chest. She turned slightly, hoping to disappear into the shadows near the bar, but it was too late. Damian reached her, his expression unreadable but his tone light. "That shawl," he said, voice laced with amusement, "looks like it's been through some stories. Mind if I help you upgrade a little?" Maya stiffened. "I'm fine, thank you," she said quickly, her voice polite but cold. "I'm only here for business." "Business or not," Damian replied, stepping closer, "you're standing in the brightest room in the city, dressed like you're hiding from it." Before she could stop him, his hand brushed the shawl, and with one gentle tug, it fell. Time seemed to collapse. A gasp rippled through the room. The shawl dropped to the floor, and beneath it, Maya stood in a stunning emerald green gown. It hugged her figure with an elegance that made every head turn. The chandelier light caught the beading at her waist, scattering light across her like constellations. Her shoulders bare, her posture proud despite the flush on her cheeks. For a moment, the music dulled, the chatter hushed, and Maya Collins, forgotten, whispered about, hidden, was seen. Damian's playful smirk vanished, replaced by something more reverent. He murmured, eyes unable to finish the sentence. Maya's heart pounded as silence swelled around her. Then, reclaiming the shawl with shaking hands, she shot him a glare sharp enough to wound. "That was rude," she snapped. "If you'll excuse me, I have work to do." She turned, leaving behind a ballroom stunned into stillness, and stepped into the elevator without looking back. In the golden glow of the descending lift, Maya pressed her lips together to keep them from trembling. She wasn't angry because Damian had exposed her. She was angry because for one unbearable moment, she felt like she existed again. And she wasn't ready for that. 6 months ago, Ethan Marks had broken her heart into pieces too small to reassemble. Tonight wasn't supposed to be about memory or hope. It was supposed to be about forgetting. But somewhere between the rooftop lights and Damian Reynolds' curious eyes, Maya Collins had become impossible to ignore, and that terrified her. The subway rattled beneath the streets of Manhattan as Maya Collins leaned her forehead against the cool window, the city lights outside blurring into streaks of gold and steel. Her reflection stared back at her, tired eyes, flawless makeup half faded. The green gown hidden beneath a worn gray coat she'd changed into in the hotel restroom before fleeing the ballroom. Her fingers brushed the shawl folded tightly in her lap, and she shut her eyes against the flood of emotions rising in her throat. She had survived the night, just barely, but the world hadn't stopped reminding her of what she'd lost. Back in her apartment in Queens, Maya dropped her heels at the door and padded across the hardwood floor in silence. The walls were lined with photographs, most of them black and white shots of buildings she loved, taken during her brief and abandoned flirtation with architecture school. But one frame faced down on the bookshelf. She passed it without touching it. Sleep didn't come easily anymore. She sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through her phone. Her Instagram feed was an emotional minefield, each swipe a risk. There it was, Ethan Marks at a tech gala, suited, laughing, holding a glass of scotch. The caption was nothing, just a quote about leadership and resilience. But it wasn't the caption that gutted her. It was the comment, a simple red heart from Emily Reynolds. Her jaw tightened as she stared at it. Emily, Damian Reynolds' little sister. Poised, charming, and always hovering a little too close to Ethan in every photo from last year. Maya had tried to ignore the signs. She told herself it was paranoia, that Ethan was just under pressure at work, that he loved her. But the truth had come crashing down one rainy October afternoon when she'd stood across the street from a Greenwich cafe and watched Ethan reach across the table to tuck a strand of Emily's hair behind her ear. Their hands lingered. Their smiles were soft, familiar, intimate. Her coffee cup had slipped from her grip and shattered against the sidewalk. Just like her. Now, 6 months later, she still couldn't bring herself to delete the memories. She stared at a photo of them at a Yankees game, her nestled into his side, their faces bright with summer sun and careless affection. Her thumb hovered over the delete button, but she couldn't do it. How do you erase 6 years of your life with a single tap? At work the next morning, Maya entered the sleek offices of Summit Realty, her body moving on autopilot. The hum of phones, the click of keyboards, the faint scent of espresso from the break room, it was all painfully normal. Her computer blinked to life with a login to Yardi software, but her mind was adrift, floating between past and present. Julian Ward appeared beside her desk like he always did, 2 coffees in hand. "Rough night?" he asked, his tone light but his eyes searching. She took the cup, offering a faint smile. "You could say that." Julian, early 30s with gentle eyes and a voice like warm tea, had been her steady presence for the past 2 years. Whenever things unraveled, he was there, silent, supportive, never pushing. But lately his glances lingered a little longer, his smiles curved with something unsaid. "You sure you're okay?" he asked, nudging a file toward her. "I'm fine," she replied automatically. "Just tired." He didn't believe her. He never did. But he respected her space, even when it cost him. As Julian walked away, Maya stared after him, heart pinching with guilt. She knew what he felt, even if he never said it out loud. She'd seen the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. But her heart still lived in the ruins of what Ethan had left behind. And no matter how kind Julian was, she wasn't ready to hand him those broken pieces. Later that evening, the apartment buzzed with voices and the clatter of dishes as Maya sat at the dinner table with her mother and older brother. Diana Collins was a no-nonsense woman who could cook 3 dishes at once and criticize your entire life without taking a breath. 6 years, Maya," she said, slicing vegetables with the intensity of a heart surgeon. "You gave that boy 6 years, and what did you get? A shadow and a bad habit." "Mom," Maya sighed, poking at her food. "Can we not?" Matt chimed in, grinning. "You know, I've got a buddy from the gym, runs his own tech startup. You should meet him." "You sound like an app," Maya muttered, earning a bark of laughter from Matt and an exasperated groan from Diana. "You dress like a receptionist," Diana added. "Put on some lipstick, and you'll have men lining up." Maya rolled her eyes, but a reluctant smile tugged at her lips. Family dinners were chaotic and judgmental, but strangely comforting. At least here, the pain was honest. Later that night, alone again, she opened her phone and saw a notification. A bouquet had been delivered to her office earlier that day. No note. Just lilies. Her anniversary flowers. Her chest tightened. Was it Ethan? Or was someone else stepping into the story? The hum of fluorescent lights echoed softly through the polished floors of Summit Realty as Maya walked into the office the next morning, her expression composed but her chest tight. The elevator ride had been quiet, filled with colleagues pretending not to sneak glances at her. The aftershocks of the rooftop party hadn't died down. If anything, they'd evolved. Whispers followed her like perfume, and she knew why. Someone had posted a photo, a blurry shot of her in that emerald gown, eyes wide, shawl pooling at her feet. The caption read simply, "From wallflower to wild card, who is she?" Maya had hoped the noise would die, but New York didn't forgive mystery. It magnified it. She passed through the lobby quickly, clutching a folder of lease agreements, and settled at her desk. She hadn't even taken off her coat when Sasha Lane strutted in, her high heels clicking like accusations on marble. Sasha was all sharp cheekbones and sharper words, draped in a cherry-red blazer that screamed she wanted to be seen. Her gaze zeroed in on Maya like a hawk spotting prey. "Well," Sasha purred, leaning against Maya's desk uninvited, "if it isn't the viral sensation herself." Maya didn't look up. "Can I help you with something?" Sasha smirked, tossing her perfectly curled hair over one shoulder. "Oh, I'm just visiting an old friend. Heard Julian's been distracted lately. Thought I'd come see what all the fuss was about." Maya's spine stiffened, but she kept her tone even. "Julian's not in yet, and if he were, this is still a workplace." Sasha clicked her tongue. "So professional. Must be hard, playing mentor to Julian by day and mystery woman by night." Before Maya could reply, Julian walked in, coffee in one hand, briefcase in the other. The warmth in his expression faded the moment he spotted Sasha. "Sasha? What are you doing here?" She turned to him with a sugary smile. "Julian, don't be cold. Just saying hi." Julian set his briefcase down slowly. "You don't work here anymore." "I know," she said, her voice too sweet to be sincere. "But you've been ignoring my texts. Thought maybe you were occupied." Then she glanced at Maya again, eyes glittering with implication. Maya stood up, her voice calm but razor-edged. "I think it's time for you to leave." "Oh, don't get flustered," Sasha said lightly. "Check your Instagram stories, darling. You're already trending." With that, she turned on her heel and sauntered out of the office. Julian's brow furrowed as Maya grabbed her phone. Her heart sank. A story posted by Sasha, a grainy photo of her and Julian at a cafe, laughing over coffee. The caption? "Property manager or gold digger? Who's Maya really after?" The office buzzed with energy, but now it felt suffocating. Maya's cheeks burned, her throat thick with frustration. Colleagues were sneaking peeks at their phones. She met Julian's eyes and his jaw was clenched. "Real mature," she muttered. "She's desperate." "She's spiteful," Julian said quietly. "I'll handle it." "I can handle myself," Maya snapped, then immediately regretted the sharpness in her voice. Julian didn't flinch. "I know you can, but you don't have to do it alone." Before she could respond, the office door opened again, this time revealing a woman Maya recognized instantly from the framed photos in Julian's cubicle. Elaine Ward, his mother, in her late 50s, carried the air of someone who'd never been questioned a day in her life. She marched past reception like she owned the building and stopped directly in front of Maya's desk. "Isabella." "No, Maya, isn't it?" Elaine's voice was cool, rehearsed. "We need to talk. Now." Maya rose slowly, aware of every pair of eyes in the room, and followed Elaine to a quiet corner near the conference room. Elaine folded her arms, her eyes sharp behind tortoiseshell glasses. "I heard about you and Julian. Let me be clear. My son has a future, a real one, and I won't let anyone derail it, especially someone with baggage." Maya's heart thudded once, hard, but she kept her voice level. "With all due respect, Mrs. Barrett, Ward, Julian and I are just friends. Maybe you should speak to him directly." Elaine's smile was tight. "Mothers don't need conversations, we have instincts." "Well, mine says you're wasting your time," Maya said. "Good day, Mrs. Ward." Back at her desk, she found Leah Burns grinning at her, like she'd just watched a telenovela. "You okay?" Leah whispered. "That was intense." Maya nodded, her hands still trembling. "I'm fine." But inside she wasn't. Between Sasha's poison, Elaine's intrusion, and the rumor mill in overdrive, Maya felt like she was balancing on a tightrope strung over quicksand. And somewhere, in the shadows of the city, Ethan Marks was still watching, still waiting, and Maya had no idea how close the next betrayal, or revelation, was about to strike. The sun shone bright over Central Park, casting long shadows across the courtyard where Summit Realty's annual resident fair buzzed with life. Children with balloon animals darted between food stands, neighbors laughed over lemonade, and the scent of grilled corn drifted through the late afternoon breeze. Maya Collins adjusted a stack of flyers at the information booth, her professional smile fixed in place, even as her insides twisted like a knot. Just 3 days earlier, her name had been dragged through social media like cheap gossip on a reality show. Now, under a cloudless sky, she was supposed to smile, shake hands, and act like nothing had happened. Julian Ward appeared at her side holding 2 iced lemonades. "You look like you could use hydration," he said, offering her one with a soft smile. She took the cup, grateful. "If one more tenant asks about parking permits, I might climb that cotton candy machine and disappear." "You're holding it together," he said, admiring her composure. "Better than I would, honestly." Maya didn't reply. Her eyes scanned the crowd reflexively, looking for a face she knew she wouldn't find, but half feared she might. Ethan hadn't shown up, but his presence lingered like a ghost. Every bouquet of lilies, every anonymous message, every flicker of memory she couldn't quite bury. As the live band finished their set and residents began gathering around the small community stage, the MC announced that Maya would now say a few words. She froze for a beat, then inhaled deeply, straightening her spine. With practiced grace, she walked up the platform steps and took the microphone. Her voice rang out steady, professional, as she welcomed the crowd and thanked them for their continued trust in Summit Realty. As the applause began and she stepped down from the stage, Julian intercepted her. His eyes were shining with something deeper, unmistakable, unguarded. "Wait," he said, taking the microphone from the MC before she could walk away. Maya blinked. "Julian, what are you?" "I need to say something," he said into the mic, his voice reaching every corner of the courtyard. The music stopped. The crowd fell silent. He turned to face her, expression open, vulnerable. "Maya Collins," he began, "you're the strongest person I've ever known. You show up for everyone else even when you're hurting. You fight through everything, and you still manage to make this community feel like home. I've been your friend. I've been your shadow. And I've been in love with you for longer than I care to admit." Maya's heart stopped. "I know you're still healing," he continued, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket and dropping to one knee. "But I couldn't wait anymore. Maya, will you marry me?" A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Residents began chanting, "Say yes! Say yes!" Phones were pulled out. Children waved pinwheels and balloon swords like confetti. But Maya didn't move. Tears welled in her eyes as she stared at Julian on his knee, his hand trembling slightly as he held the box open to her. The ring was beautiful, modest, elegant, exactly the kind of thing she would have loved. But her heart beat wildly, not with joy, but panic. She shook her head gently, her voice just audible above the murmuring crowd. "Julian, I'm so sorry, I'm not ready. I thought I was, but I'm not." A hush fell. Julian's hopeful expression cracked, but he nodded, quietly closing the box. "It's okay," he whispered, standing up. "You don't have to be ready. I just needed you to know." The crowd politely clapped, unsure whether it was for bravery or heartbreak. Maya turned away, blinking hard against the sting behind her eyes. The noise resumed. Music, conversation, laughter. But to her, everything sounded muffled, like the world had suddenly dipped underwater. That evening, Julian's mother requested to meet her. Maya reluctantly agreed, knowing it was unavoidable. They met at a quiet Italian restaurant on the Upper East Side. The candlelight flickered between them as Elaine Ward sipped her wine and stared across the table with carefully measured restraint. "You embarrassed my son in public," Elaine said, not wasting a moment. "Julian may have his faults, but he deserved better than to be left on his knees." Maya's shoulders stiffened. "I didn't ask him to do that, Mrs. Ward." "You didn't have to." Elaine snapped. "You let him on. I warned you once, and now I'm warning you again. Stay away from him. He's meant for better." Maya placed her napkin on the table and stood. Her voice was calm but steel-lined. "Julian's a grown man, and if you can't respect his choices, then maybe you're not the one who knows what's best for him." Without waiting for a response, she walked out of the restaurant, the autumn wind cool against her skin. Her heart pounded, not because of the confrontation, but because of the truth beneath it. She was standing at the center of two lives pulling her in opposite directions. And somewhere in the dark corners of her mind, a memory was stirring. Ethan, he was still out there, and he wasn't finished yet. The late afternoon sun painted Central Park in hues of amber and rose, casting long shadows across the open lawn where Summit Realty's final community event of the season was underway. Colorful banners swayed in the breeze, food trucks lined the walking path, and the hum of conversations mixed with the sound of children laughing and acoustic guitar floating from a nearby stage. Maya Collins moved through it all with practiced ease, clipboard in hand, greeting residents and giving instructions to staff. But beneath her steady exterior, she felt like a candle flickering in the wind, threatening to go out. She hadn't seen Julian since the proposal. He'd given her space, too much of it maybe, but she hadn't known what to say. The guilt gnawed at her, but the weight in her chest told her that accepting his love would have been a lie, at least for now. She wasn't healed, she wasn't ready, and she couldn't offer him a heart that still ached for someone else. Maya was refilling a pamphlet rack when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Low, hesitant, unforgettable. Maya. She froze. Turned slowly. Ethan Marks stood a few feet away, wearing a navy sport coat over a pale blue shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, looking like a ghost that had finally decided to haunt her in person. His face was tired, his eyes raw with something that looked dangerously like regret. "I needed to see you," he said quietly. The crowd faded into background noise. The sounds dulled as if the world knew this wasn't a moment for witnesses. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her ears as her eyes searched his face, unsure whether to feel fury, sorrow, or relief. "You disappeared," she said, voice trembling. "You left me without an explanation, without even the decency of closure." "I know," Ethan said, stepping closer. "I was a coward. I let things spiral, and instead of fixing it, I ran. But I never stopped thinking about you. Those flowers, the lilies, they were from me. I didn't know how else to reach you." Maya stared at him, heart stuttering. "Why now?" Before he could answer, another voice broke in, calm but firm. "She deserves the truth, Ethan." They turned. Emily Reynolds stepped forward, her hands resting gently on the swell of her belly. She looked composed, her dark blazer buttoned neatly over a maternity blouse, but her eyes betrayed a quiet storm. "Emily?" Maya's voice faltered. "I didn't come here to fight," Emily said softly. "I came to say what should have been said months ago. What happened between Ethan and me? It wasn't planned. It wasn't love. And I don't want him tied to me out of guilt or obligation." Ethan looked at Emily with silent gratitude, but Maya couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred as she tried to make sense of it all. "Is it true?" she asked, eyes on Ethan. "You're not with her?" "No," he said. "We're not together. We were never really together. My heart's always been with you." There was no time to react before Ethan stepped up onto the stage and took the microphone from the MC mid-announcement. The park hushed in an instant. "Everyone," he said, voice ringing through the speakers, "I know this is unorthodox, but I need to say something." Maya's heart pounded as all eyes turned toward her. He continued, gaze locked on her. "I made a mistake, a terrible one. I walked away from the one person who made me believe in forever, and I've spent every day since trying to fix that, trying to find the courage to come back. Maya Collins, I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm asking for a chance, to show you that I still believe in us, that I never stopped loving you." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Phones were raised, capturing every second. Maya stood frozen, emotions crashing over her like waves, anger, love, fear, hope. Slowly she walked up the steps, stood before him. "You broke me," she said, tears sliding down her cheeks. "You left me when I needed you most, but I never stopped loving you either." Ethan reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll give you that chance." The crowd erupted in applause as Ethan pulled her into a tight embrace. A moment of silence passed between them, deeper than any words could capture. Below the stage, Emily watched with a bittersweet smile before turning away and disappearing into the crowd. And in the distance, Julian Ward stood among the cheering onlookers, his applause quiet but steady. His heart cracked open, but he smiled anyway. Beside him, Leah nudged his shoulder gently. "She's happy," she said. Julian nodded. "That's what matters." As the sun dipped behind the city skyline and the first stars blinked awake, Maya stood in Ethan's arms under the fading light, knowing that this wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a second chance wrapped in vulnerability and stitched together with love that had weathered the storm. And for the first time in a long time, she finally let herself believe. Thank you for staying with us through Maya's journey, a story of heartbreak, courage, and the delicate power of second chances. If there's one thing this story teaches us, it's that healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes the people we love hurt us in ways we never saw coming, and the road back to trust feels impossible. But love, when genuine, has a way of finding its voice, even in silence, even in the wreckage. We learn that strength isn't about never breaking, it's about showing up in your brokenness. Maya stood in the eye of the storm. Rumors, family pressure, the fear of vulnerability, and still found the courage to choose love on her own terms. And we saw how Julian, though heartbroken, chose respect over resentment. That kind of quiet grace is just as powerful as grand gestures. And perhaps most importantly, we saw that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting that people are flawed and choosing to see the light in them anyway. Ethan didn't ask for a perfect ending. He asked for a chance. And Maya, with her scars still healing, decided that love, even when bruised, was still worth fighting for. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Have you ever had to choose between holding on and letting go? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next emotional story. We've got more unforgettable tales coming your way, because real stories touch the soul. Until then, stay kind, stay strong, and always believe in love.